Okay, this first question comes from Scarecrow Edits 2, who asks, what is current Jake's ideal new Splinter Cell entry? Reboot, sequel, or spinoff? I just take just about anything at this point. For me personally, it's a really good question. I love the series and a new Splinter Cell entry, so we know officially that they are remaking the first game. That's fine. That's cool. That's all well and good. The obvious answer is, of course, another traditional Sam Fisher adventure, right? For us nostalgic folks, what do we want? The classic style gameplay, probably perfected in Chaos Theory, to, of course, Michael Ironside doing the voice, and just Sam going on missions, maybe in between of the stories we've gotten already. I think that would be perfect. That would nail it. But the reality is, I don't know if that's happening at this point. I don't know how much longer we're going to have Ironside doing the voice. I mean, they're doing a Netflix Splinter Cell show without Ironside. So I don't know what is actually really going to happen there. And the reality also, of course, is Ubisoft is a corporation. So they might really look at this as an opportunity to maybe eventually reboot it, start it off as a whole new thing, you know, dropping the baggage of us old nostalgic fans and making it a new brand for a new age. I don't know. I don't necessarily want that personally, but I'm still okay with it because they kind of did that with Blacklist. Blacklist felt like kind of just its own thing, a different Sam Fisher with some decent gameplay, and I enjoyed it. It didn't feel quite like the original games, but I was still happy to have it. So something that feels Splinter Cell. Something that has that distinct feel, right? Embracing light and darkness and actually really just feeling, not like you're just a stealthy, sneaky guy avoiding enemies, right? But really using technology and also just the skill of hiding in the shadows and being quiet. I think that was the most satisfying thing with Splinter Cell games, right? Was like, you actually, the first time you sneak up on a guy, you really feel like a highly skilled guy and you feel smart. You're taking advantage of light and darkness. You're watching it on a meter. You're watching your sound. I think that's important. I think that's what hooked me the most, more than, you know, the story or anything like that in these games. So I would also say, look, if they're like avoiding Sam Fisher, I would take a really good ass Spies versus Merc dedicated solo multiplayer game. That's not what I want first and foremost, but I still have really fond memories of those games. Like, that multiplayer mode kicked ass. But I'm kind of with Scarecrow Edits, who asked this question, who says, I'll just take about anything at this point. I won't take any old slop, but yeah, I just want something, man. Which I do want to spin off into this next question from SpareEdge8409, who asks, did you ever play the original Ghost Recon? And do you think a game like that would do well today? A slower, mission-based, more strategy-focused first-person shooter? I have been a Tom Clancy guy early on, and I had been with Ghost Recon, I'm proud to say, from the beginning. The original Ghost Recon was, you know, to some people, you'd look at it and think boring because it was slow, tactical, simple, kind of vague. You didn't see your gun on screen. You just had a reticle, but it was awesome. It was unique. It felt tactical. It kind of like goes back to what I was saying with Splinter Cell. It felt like you really were playing as a skilled, badass person. So yeah, I did play the original Ghost Recon. I really enjoyed it. I think it really took off with Advanced Warfighter. Those games, like the spin-offs therein, Future Soldier, I even really enjoyed. I like those games quite a bit. I like a SOCOM US Navy SEALs, which I've mentioned in another previous video. Like, I like a game where you're taking it slow, you're creeping around, you're feeling smart and tactical. There are still multiplayer games that provide that experience, but they're too hard. People are too sweaty, man. You die instantly. I like a single player, tight, AI-focused, stealthy, tactical thing. And do I think a game like the original Ghost Recon would do well today? I think maybe, and I say that specifically because we have the rise of popularity and things like that. You know, that there's a new Stalker out, and that seems like it's doing well. That's a slower, kind of weirder, more unconventional style game. Like, there is still life for these types of experiences. You also have a whole new generation of people hooked on other things like Rainbow Six Siege, which, yeah, of course, is a little bit more run and gunnery, but still it requires some tactics and some precision. And even, like, I keep mentioning multiplayer, but even Escape from Tarkov. Taking it slow, tactics, being smart, aiming your shots. Like there is, I think, a hunger for stuff like that out there. It's just a matter of like those multiplayer people, those sweaties wanting a more single player experience. But I definitely think there's something there. And welcome to my Q&A video. I do these every month. It's the end of the year. Wanted to get one in and talk to you guys. I take your questions from the comments section. So essentially in this video you're watching here, drop questions you want me to answer and I'll go and get these questions and answer them in the next video. Anything you want me to talk about, stuff I don't cover in other videos, older games, games I just haven't really talked about too much, specific gaming news stuff, movies, comic books, whatever, I don't care. Let's talk. So this next question at Blue Palmetto asks, my question would be, how do you feel about sports games? Blue Palmetto says, I feel there is a big divide between those who play them and those who don't, especially with the feeling of getting hosed by buying what is essentially the same game every year. My earliest gaming was almost exclusively sports and racing until I played The Elder Scrolls in 2006. That's awesome. I've said this before, but like I am very much that like EA Sports. I'm into like the sillier stuff, man. I loved NBA Street. NBA Street was absolutely my game. You know, the games after it were good, but the original for me just really hooked me. I was also super into boxing games. Ready to Rumble on the sillier side, of course, but I mean, Fight Night, Knockout Kings, just legendary games that I really, really enjoyed. To extreme sports stuff, obviously I've talked about Tony Hawk, but like, you know, other things like ATV Off-Road Fury, which I haven't mentioned too much here, but the freedom and the feeling of those rides, really, really cool. Cool Borders, SSX Tricky, all that stuff I have talked about in the past, but yeah, you know, it's in terms of like real sports and not like the extreme sports, like fun, like riding bikes and stuff like that. Yeah, I had a minute where I like the 2K football games. They were at a point at where they just felt a little bit more serious. They had like kick-ass graphics. They were like competing with Madden, and I really, really enjoyed those. I also really liked the NCAA March Madness basketball games. I think I was on the high of NBA Street and looking for the next thing and just really not going for like the NBA games. And those March Madness games did really kick ass. Now, though, to be honest, I fell off. I don't really play shit. I don't know what happened. I think it's probably just I just jumped all into playing games and talking about them in videos and stuff like that, and like the audience, and like I just kind of just didn't really gravitate. But also it's like not as much really, you know, tickles my fancy these days. Obviously I'll still play an extreme sports game. I'm looking forward to Skate. You know, I played Steep, I played the Ubisoft extreme sports games, but yeah, I think I also just like watch less sports in real life in my life, so I find myself playing the games less. I used to watch baseball, I used to watch football a little bit, so I played those games. Now, not so much. But a good basketball game, I'll probably always play. So yeah. Duncan Starr asks, do you have a good Christmas movie list? Okay, real quick, I'll fire it off because I am a hardcore Christmas enjoyer. I'm like a schmaltzy schmuck with this stuff. Edward Scissorhands, sort of. Home Alone 1 and 2, The Goats. Christmas Vacation, The Goat. Christmas Vacation for me is the one where I feel like my parents' generation and you know, some people my age, it's really a Christmas story. I find the Christmas story a little like, whatever. For me, and maybe it's because I'm just a dirtier person. Christmas Vacation is like my classic go-to every year. But also, don't miss Scrooged. Scrooged with Bill Murray is incredibly underrated. I reference it constantly. It's like Bill Murray at his best. If you like things like Ghostbusters and stuff like that, this is like a Christmas. It's awesome. It's such a good idea for a movie. It's a retelling of A Christmas Carol, but instead of Scrooge, it's like a corporate TV exec shark, and that is Bill Murray. I'm not even like a Bill Murray super fan. Like sometimes Bill Murray will sneeze and people will just be like, he's the greatest. But I think Scrooge is just really, really incredible. There's a bunch more, not like, you know, It's a Wonderful Life. Like I like all the classics really, but also Charlie Brown. Just for the music, honestly. Yeah, I could keep going, but let's move on. Matt Effect Games, friend of the show, asks, with Ryan Payton saying on your podcast they'd like to do an Arkham Shadow 2, what would you like to see them do? Another villain origin story? More Bruce Wayne undercover stuff? Playable Bat Family? Yeah, I'm actually going to go with the Bat Family a little bit because, look, I've said it time and time again. Arkham Shadow is the closest thing we got to a new Arkham game. And of course, with it being more rooted in the Arkham Origins world and less in the Kevin Conroy later Arkhamverse games, the Kevin Conroy Arkham games, you know, the Bat Family has already been around. And now it's kind of just Batman on his own again, you know, Nightwing's out in Bloodhaven, stuff like that. I would love to see like a Robin origin thing. But I really just would like to see it from a VR perspective, or really a Predator section perspective. I would love to be perched on a gargoyle and be like, Robin, get him over there, with like a young Robin being like, no problem, watch this. You know, like, I don't, there's something there to see, to give the feeling of like being Batman and also seeing your protege, seeing the person you trained execute, and just how they can make that fun from a gameplay perspective. I think specifically in Predator sections could be really cool. I think I'm cooking there with something. I don't know. Ryan, call me, dude. But anyway, I'm that guy, man. Great username. Jake, answer me this. Which Jak and Daxter game is your favorite? And do you see Naughty Dog ever making a new Jak game like Insomniac does with Ratchet? I would love to see Naughty Dog go back to their roots. It feels like so far off, like a distant memory. But favorite Jak and Daxter game. Oh man, all right. Let me get real here, okay? My heart says 2. The excitement, the hype around 2 was unprecedented for me. My heart says 2. My body says Jak and Daxter, Precursor Legacy, the original. Just top to bottom, great, creative, unique. And then my game reviewer brain says Jak 3, because Jak 3 in a lot of ways took some of the best ideas from 2 and like had none of the bad shit and just made like this really great new fun adventure. Yeah. So my vote is 2, 1, 3, but they're all my babies. I love them all equally so much. God, now I'm going to go replay that. Thanks. At Tim Sadai, asking me a Star Wars question here when I don't really talk about Star Wars on here. Theoretically, who would make a good live-action Mara Jade in your opinion? Daisy Ridley. Longtime viewer CPP Blank asks, do you have a piece of tech or tech accessory you haven't really brought up on the channel, but that you absolutely love and is your go-to? That's actually tough. My tech life, as much as I enjoy it, I'm an early adopter of a lot of things. I'm generally pretty pared down, pretty pared back. I would say one thing I've never talked about, I'm a big Philips Hue enjoyer. Big smart home guy, but only with specific things like light bulbs. And I love taking advantage of those. I love having all my lights in my home voice activated. It makes me feel like Tony Stark talking to Jarvis or whatever. They are not cheap. I'd have to like slowly over time build it up, like getting them on sale. But yeah, I think for me, being able to walk in most rooms in my place and just say, hey blank, turn these lights on. Powerful. I don't know. I fucking love it. And I never get tired of it, except when it doesn't work. And then I get extremely mad. At Just Amateur 3 says, hey, Jake, I'm not a Metal Gear guy yet. Work on that. But all of the times you talk about Metal Gear, I feel like I haven't heard you talk about Metal Gear Solid 5 too much. Why is that? Straight up, it just, for me, I go to Metal Gear Solid for the story first and foremost every single time. And the story for 5 didn't do it for me. There are various factors, various reasons. It feels unfinished. There's probably the meddling with Konami. Some people say, of course, it's Konami's fault, which I am led to believe, but some people even can argue that maybe it's Kojima's fault. But either way, it just is an unsatisfying meal of a game in terms of really like what it could have been. The story of Big Boss, like finally really seeing that heel turn to the legendary bad guy. He ultimately became, the antagonist of the early Metal Gear games. That wasn't quite realized. There's some interesting ideas in there, but it just felt half-cooked. Obviously, 5 has some of the best stealth gameplay in the series. Tactical, open, creative, of course, for players, but the story left a lot to be desired for me, and part of that, I could go on and on, but yeah, for me, 5 is probably near the bottom of my list, because I go to Metal Gear for the compelling stories and the characters. And the game had very little in the realm of compelling stories and characters. Still, like I said about Jak and Daxter, they are all my children. I love them all equally, except for Survive. Not you. You don't count. But that's it for this Q&A. Thank you for your questions. I really appreciate you guys. I love just kind of getting out of my comfort zone, talking about other stuff, covering stuff I haven't talked about in a while, like Metal Gear Solid 5. Maybe I should make a whole video on that. But either way, again, any questions you want to ask me, hit me in the comments section here, and then in the next video, I'll pull from here. But let me know what you think about my weird hot takes. I appreciate you guys sticking around here. I know some of you guys listen to this while you fold laundry or whatever, so thank you. Now's the time to find that next video. But for everyone else, I'm Jake Baldino. Thanks for watching. Subscribe because video games. Pizza's on me.